Welcome, sleepy thinkers. Tonight, we're taking a calm glide through the cosmos to understand why light, so swift and bright, has a speed limit at all. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I love imagining this quiet little classroom stretching across continents. If you enjoy gentle science that helps your mind unwind, please tap subscribe and give this video a like. It helps more dreamers find us. Now, settle in, breathe slowly, and let's follow a single beam of light to the edge of what's possible. Imagine a soft, steady rhythm that never falters, like the hush of waves on a quiet shore, or the ticking of a clock in a peaceful room at night. Light moves with that kind of certainty. It doesn't rush to impress or slow to rest. It simply keeps a perfect pace, everywhere, every time. You don't need to picture formulas or diagrams. Just hold the feeling of something faithful and sure, a metronome for the universe. When you look up at the stars, the glow you see has crossed vast distances at this same dependable tempo. It's comforting to know that in a world full of change, there is a gentle rule that does not wobble. You might close your eyes and imagine a beam of light leaving a distant star long ago, gliding through emptiness with patient grace, never confused, never late, always true to itself. That steadiness shapes everything you and I experience, though we rarely notice it. It decides how quickly starlight reaches our eyes, how signals whisper through the dark, how reality keeps its timing neat and tidy. If you've ever watched sunlight creep across a bedroom floor at dawn, you've watched the universe keep time. That golden stripe moves because light obeys its own quiet law. It has no need to boast. It simply is. Even when humans build tools to talk across oceans or explore the heavens, those tools must respect the same rhythm. The constancy is so reliable that we use it to measure other things, the way you might use a trusted heartbeat to steady your breath. In the calm of night, it's nice to think that somewhere between galaxies, the same steady shimmer continues, stitching the cosmos together with an invisible thread. Long before we knew much about the sky, people sensed that the world had patterns, winds that returned each season, tides that rose and fell, stars that traced familiar paths. Light steadiness is another of those patterns, only deeper. It tells us that the stage beneath everything is well built. When you relax into your pillow and let your thoughts drift, picture that stage as a smooth, dark lake. A single ripple glides across it, unhurried, unwavering, carrying a message from far away. That ripple is light, and its calm, constant movement is the reason the message arrives exactly as it should. You don't need to solve anything. Let the idea float there. A universe that keeps a gentle promise so you can rest inside it. Now, let's drift back in time to a moment when people first noticed the whispers of electricity and magnetism. They found that when these two dance together, a wave appears, an invisible wave that spreads through space. You don't have to picture the details. Just imagine two partners moving in perfect step, each guiding the other, and together sending a ripple outward. That ripple is what we call light. What's remarkable is that the pace of this dance doesn't depend on who is watching or who started the music. The rhythm belongs to the space itself, like sound that's built right into the room rather than coming from an instrument. It means that the emptiness between stars isn't really empty. It holds a character, a texture, a way things prefer to move. Light follows that preference with exquisite poise, as if the room of the universe is gently telling it, "Go like this," and light nods and goes exactly like that. If you've ever stood in a quiet hallway and clapped your hands, you can feel how the space answers back. It has an echo, a signature. In a similar way, the open space all around us has its own signature, and light carries it. This is why the glow from a candle, the glint off a lake, and the blaze of a distant star all travel with the same patient momentum when they are free of obstacles. It isn't a choice made by the light. It's the character of the stage it moves across. Thinking about this can be soothing. It means we live in a place that behaves, that keeps its promises. No matter how far the ripple goes, the room of the universe guides it with the same gentle hand. Later, a new idea arrived, and it changed how we feel about motion, time, and distance. The idea was simple to say and profound to live with. Everyone who moves calmly and steadily through the world should find the same laws at work, and the pace of light should be the same for all of them. To make that possible, time and space themselves flex a little. Not in a way you can feel as you walk down the street, but in a way the universe understands deep down. If someone glides past you in a smooth train and you stand on the platform, both of you will still agree on the way light behaves. Your clocks might not tick exactly the same in extreme situations. Your rulers might not match perfectly when you compare them the hard way, but the beam of light remains loyal to both of you, keeping its rhythm like a trusted friend who refuses to play favorites. This is less about limits and more about structure. The world is built so that light's pace weaves everything together. Time stretches just enough in the right places. Space settles itself just so. The result is a harmony that keeps our experiences consistent, even when our perspectives are different. You don't have to force this into your mind. You can simply let the picture form, two travelers moving in different ways, each watching the same beam of light, each seeing it honor the same tempo. It's like listening to a song from different rooms of a house and finding that the melody is still the same. Now imagine trying to push something heavy toward that perfect tempo. You give it a little nudge and it moves. You push again and it goes faster. But every new push asks more of you than the last. The closer you try to make it move like light, the more effort disappears into the fabric of time and distance themselves. It's as if the universe gently guides you back, whispering, "This pace belongs to light." Nothing dramatic or violent, just a steady increase in how hard it becomes to keep up. This isn't a punishment. It's a kindness, a way of protecting the balance. The world lets you approach the rhythm, learn from it, feel its pull, but it keeps you from crossing a line that would make everything tangled and strange. For light, there's no need to speed up at all. It doesn't start out slow and accelerate carefully. It is born already moving with the universe's chosen rhythm, as natural to it as breathing is to you. A particle of light springs into being already in motion, like a note that appears already ringing. It never tires. It never asks for more fuel. It simply travels, carrying energy and information, brushing past planets, stars, and clouds of dust with the same elegant glide. Thinking about that can be restful. The idea of a traveler who never struggles to begin, never needs to catch their breath, never doubts their path. Light's journey is effortless because the world makes it so. There is another reason this steady pace matters. It keeps the story of reality in order. Imagine trying to read a book where the sentences refuse to stay in line, where a message could arrive before it was written. It would be unsettling. The steady pace of light prevents that confusion. It gives every cause a chance to take the stage before its effect follows. Clocks might disagree when they move in different ways, and that's fine. The universe accounts for those disagreements with quiet grace. But the sequence stays clean. First, the knock on the door, then the opening. First, the flash in the night, then the glow reaching you. The rhythm of light is the book's binding, keeping the pages from slipping out of order. Sometimes we hear that light can be slower in water or glass, and that can sound like the rule has been broken. It hasn't. When light moves through a clear material, it interacts with that material in tiny, complicated ways. Think of walking through a friendly crowd. You still head in the same direction, but there are gentle pauses and sidesteps as you move. Your overall progress is a bit slower, not because your legs forgot how to walk, but because the path includes brief visits with the people around you. Light experiences something like that. In the open air of space, it glides freely. Inside a material, it engages for a moment, then continues. The deeper rule, the one that belongs to open space, remains untouched. You may have heard of a spooky connection between particles, where two things far apart seem to coordinate instantly. It's a curious and beautiful idea, and it stirs the imagination. But even here, the universe holds on to its calm. Those mysterious connections can't be used to send a clear message faster than light. It's more like two friends who always pick the same card without discussing it. And only when you gather the results later do you notice the pattern, the practical part, the part where a person here tries to tell a person they're something useful, still needs the ordinary, gentle pace that the world allows. The mystery can stay magical without breaking the rhythm that keeps everything understandable. There is one more picture worth holding, and it's a grand one. The place we live in, the entire stage, has been stretching since long ago. Galaxies far away ride that stretch like boats on a widening river. From our vantage point, it can look as if those boats are moving away faster than any traveler could row. But that's the river growing, not the boat sprinting. Here, in our local patch of water, nothing outruns the gentle pace we've been talking about. The rule still holds. The stretching only changes the distance between far-off shores. It doesn't change the way a ripple moves along the surface where you and I dip our hands. This steady rhythm isn't just a curiosity for late-night conversations. It shapes the things we build and the way we navigate our world. Our maps of the sky rely on it. The signals that guide travelers and keep time across the planet rely on it. The very way we define distance leans on this trustworthy tempo, like measuring steps by a heartbeat. Knowing this can bring a sense of ease. We're not floating through chaos. We're cradled by a rule that is simple, kind, and universally kept. The next time you see a beam of sunlight slip through a curtain or a distant star blink in the cold air, you can let your shoulders drop. The universe is keeping time, softly and steadily. You don't have to do anything. You can just listen to the rhythm and rest. Imagine the world going quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet you feel when snow is falling or when the sea holds its breath between waves. In that hush, there is a faint conversation happening all around you, a soft back and forth between two invisible partners. One partner is the subtle pull that makes a speck of dust notice a tiny charge. The other is the quiet twist you feel around a magnet, the way iron filings suddenly know how to line up. They are different, but they listen to each other. When one stirs, the other replies. When one rises, the other leans in. And from their patient, endless conversation, light is born. Long ago, before anyone could send music across oceans or messages through the air, people watched sparks leap, needles swing, and amber attract bits of straw. They were clues, small, flickering hints that the world carries hidden weather. Not gusts of air, but currents you cannot touch. Think of it like a breeze that never rattles the leaves, but still moves through everything. If you could see this breeze, you might notice that when you nudge the electric part of it, the magnetic part wakes up. When you tilt the magnetic part, the electric part stirs. It's a gentle game of follow the leader with no single leader at all. One nudges the other, which nudges the first, and so on. And the nudge walks forward, step by step, across space. That walking nudge is a wave. That wave is light. The beauty of it is how little it needs. No drum to pound, no string to pluck. The room of the universe itself is the instrument. Give it the smallest, quietest push. A charge shaking in a wire, a spark jumping, an atom switching states, and the room answers with a traveling shimmer. You can imagine space as having two qualities at once, a kind of softness that lets it be influenced, and a kind of steadiness that resists sudden change. When something tries to rearrange that hidden weather, space first yields, then restores, then yields again. Softness and steadiness take turns, like a pair of lungs breathing. That alternating breath sets a natural pace. Not too fast, not too slow. Just the one rhythm the room prefers. Light moves at that pace, because light is nothing more and nothing less than the room breathing in waves. There was a time when this was only a suspicion painted by many experiments and many minds. A quiet thinker looked at the clues and realized the dance partner who'd been missing from the story. He imagined the electric and the magnetic not as separate curiosities, but as one conversation. He noticed that if you let that conversation be complete, if you let each partner reply in just the right way, something beautiful happens. A self-sustaining ripple appears. It doesn't fade right away. It feeds itself gently, not by creating energy from nowhere, but by passing energy back and forth with perfect timing, the way a well-balanced pendulum keeps swinging. He followed this idea to its natural conclusion and found that the ripple must travel with a specific tempo that belongs to space itself. Later, others looked outward and inward and realized that tempo is the same speed we already knew from starlight and lanterns and the glow of the sun. You don't need the details. Just let the feeling settle. The universe has a favorite walking pace for this particular ripple. The remarkable part is that the pace is not chosen by the candle, the star, or the spark. It is chosen by the room. That means a lighthouse calling from a cliff, and lightning splitting a summer sky, and a tiny transmitter inside your phone, all release ripples that, when free, keep the same steady stride. Some ripples have short, quick steps. Some have long, slow ones. That's the color and the tone, the difference between deep red warmth and sharp blue sparkle, between the music that carries your voice and the warmth that heats your dinner. But their stride through empty space is the same dependable one, set by the room, not the musician. This is a comforting thought. It means that emptiness isn't careless. It has character, the way a good concert hall has a sound of its own. Musicians don't argue with the hall, they work with it. In the same way, light does not argue with the universe. It glides along the grain of reality, following lines that were there long before any star first ignited. That is why a single, tiny antenna can hum with a broadcast that reaches across a city, and why a distant galaxy can send us a whisper that began its journey before our species learned to plant seeds. The room carries both whispers the same way, with the same grace. If you could slow time and watch the birth of a beam, you'd see something simple and elegant. A charge is jostled. The electric part of space leans. That lean awakens the magnetic part, which, in turn, coaxes the electric part forward again. The two keep trading places, like two hands passing a small flame back and forth, never letting it go out. The passing itself moves onward, and that onward motion is the beam. You could extinguish the source, or move it, or shade it, but while the passing continues, the beam keeps its poise and travels on. Sometimes, the room is not empty. It's furnished with glass or water or a fine fog of tiny particles. In those places, the ripple still tries to keep its steady stride, but it now shares space with matter that wants a word. The ripple pauses to interact and then continues. To you, watching the whole journey, it seems to slow down, the way you would if you strolled through a friendly crowd, offering a nod here, a step aside there. The essential rhythm, the one that belongs to the bare room, hasn't changed. The journey just has more small conversations along the way. It can be tempting to think of light as a stream of tiny beads scooting through tunnels, but the Romer's instrument picture offers a gentler truth. Light is a pattern the room can play, a traveling shape of influence that appears wherever the electric and the magnetic take turns with patience and balance. That's why there are so many versions of it: warm, cool, visible, invisible, soothing, sizzling. It's all the same duet, performed at different pitches. Your eyes are tuned for a small band of it, the part that paints the world in color. Your skin notices another band as warmth. Your radio notices yet another band as news, songs, and voices. The duet is the same. The room is the same. The stride is the same. If this feels abstract, try this image. Picture a vast, dark lake at night. You dip your fingers into the water and give the surface the slightest flick. A ring spreads outward, perfectly round, perfectly steady, touching shores you cannot see. Now imagine that the lake is everywhere, not made of water, but made of the hidden weather we've been talking about. Imagine that your flick is a charge that trembles. The ring is born and travels on. That's light. You don't have to track the mathematics of it. You can just sit on the pier, listen to the soft lapping, and know that the ring's speed is set by the lake itself. You can't coax it to hurry. You can't persuade it to crawl. It will move the way the lake allows, and that rightness is what makes it beautiful. This understanding does something gentle to the mind. It turns a mystery filled with sharp edges into a lullaby about partnership and timing. Light isn't fighting to move. It isn't conquering darkness. It's simply doing what the world's fabric invites it to do. It begins in a tremble. It continues as a conversation, and it ends when it has handed its energy to something that can use it. An atom in a leaf, a sensor in a camera, the cells in your eye. In that moment, the wave's journey becomes someone else's warmth, or sight, or signal. Then, somewhere else, the duet begins again. And here you are, breathing slowly, eyes perhaps half closed, with that faint conversation still happening around you. Lamps glow because the duet is playing. Stars sparkle because the duet is playing. Your device works because the duet is playing. The partners do not tire. The room does not forget the tune. The ripple keeps its stride through the open spaces between things. You don't need to solve any puzzles to feel the comfort in that. The universe hums with a music that carries you from moment to moment, and the beam that lights your page or your wall or the clouds above your home is one small phrase in a song that never stops. Picture two travelers moving through a quiet night, one strolling along a platform under warm lamps, the other gliding past in a smooth, whispering train. They wave as they pass each other, and for a moment, both feel certain they understand what now means. Your mind naturally knits the scene into a single moment, as if the world has one shared clock hanging in the sky. But the universe is softer and wiser than that. It doesn't hand out a master clock. Instead, it offers a simple promise. If you are moving calmly, no swerves, no spins, the rules you discover will be the same as anyone else's. And woven into those rules is a gentle requirement. Light keeps the same pace for everyone. To make room for that promise, time and space don't stand rigid like brick walls. They flex, the way a well-made bridge sways just enough to carry everyone safely across. Let that idea settle in without trying to pin it down. Imagine the air itself adjusting so music sounds right to every listener, no matter where they sit in the hall. That's what time and distance do. They shift just enough to keep the rhythm of light steady for each traveler. If the train rider tries to measure a beam, and the person on the platform does the same, both will find the same loyal tempo. The cost of that loyalty is a quiet reshaping of experience. The ticking of clocks can loosen or tighten. The span of a moving object can draw in slightly along the direction of motion. It isn't a trick or a glitch. It's the world being kind, making sure all calm observers can tell the same story about how light behaves. You can picture it this way. Each traveler carries a private bundle of moments, like pages in a journal. They write "now" at the top of each page as life moves along. When they compare journals later, some entries don't line up the way they expected. What one called "at the same time," the other called "a little earlier" or "a little later." Nothing broke. No one was wrong. Their journals were shaped by their paths. The universe let each keep a straight, unhurried course, and in exchange, it gently adjusted the spacing of their pages so the promise about light would hold. It helps to think of time as having texture, not just length. For a traveler who's moving quickly and steadily, that texture stretches a little. Their moments contain slightly more silence between ticks. From the platform, the moving clock appears to tick more slowly. From the train, the platform clock appears to do the same. This symmetry can feel strange until you remember the bridge that sways for everyone. There's no preferred perch, no special balcony seat. Each traveler is centered in their own experience, and the world cooperates with both. Distance has a companion softness. If something flies by, its length along the direction of flight looks subtly drawn inward. Not because it's been crushed, but because space allows a small adjustment to preserve the shared rhythm. Picture a long, soft accordion being carried past you. From your view, the folds seem a tad closer together for a moment. From the person carrying it, all looks normal. Neither view is more real than the other. They're different cross-sections of the same larger shape the universe is drawing. Even the meaning of "at the same time" becomes local, like the taste of water from different springs. Two flashes that feel simultaneous to you on the platform might not feel simultaneous to the rider in the train. This isn't chaos, it's choreography. The stagehands, time and space, change their marks between scenes so the lead performer, light's steady pace, keeps the same entrance for every audience. The result is a play that runs cleanly, without favor or contradiction, no matter which seat you chose. If your mind wants a picture, try this one. Lay a soft blanket on a table. Two ants walk across it in straight, unhurried lines, one north, one northeast. A tiny, gentle breeze moves the blanket now and then, almost imperceptibly. Each ant measures its steps with a little metronome it carries. To make sure both ants hear the same beat, the blanket yields in just the right places. A fold smooths out here, another rises there. Neither ant sees the whole blanket at once, but each feels the path beneath its feet support that shared rhythm. The blanket's give and take is the reason both ants can honestly say, "Yes, the beat is steady for me." There's another image that's even calmer. Imagine a lantern in a dark field, sending a thin shell of light outward in all directions. Anyone, anywhere, moving with steady grace through the field, will watch that shell glide away from them at the same pace. To make this true, the field doesn't let itself be measured by a single rigid yardstick or a single unbending clock. It allows gentle compromises. It lets one observer's seconds breathe wider while another's inches tuck in slightly, and the shell of light keeps its course without favoritism. You might be wondering what this means for journeys. Suppose two friends part and later reunite. One stays home and tends the garden. The other takes a long, swift trip and returns. When they meet again, Their journals won't have the same number of pages. The travelers' entries are spaced differently, not because of fatigue or confusion, but because the path they traced through the world had a different texture of moments. Time honored the promise it made to preserve the rhythm of light along each path. The difference at the reunion isn't a paradox, it's a receipt. It shows what each path asked the universe to do to keep the promise. Even everyday devices lean on this softness. Signals that guide you from city to city or keep shared clocks humming in tune across continents depend on the world's willingness to adjust. The systems work because we accept that there isn't one stiff, absolute time everywhere. There is a patchwork that fits together, with seams so well sewn you rarely notice them. The seams are those small flexes in ticking and measuring that keep the rhythm steady for everyone. If this all begins to feel slippery, return to the simplest comfort. The rules do not change when you glide calmly. The same experiments sing the same notes for you as for anyone else in the same state of motion. The only way the world can guarantee that fairness is by refusing to crown a single clock or a single ruler as king. It spreads the authority out. It gives each traveler a perfectly valid view, then tweaks the fabric so those views agree about the things that matter most, like the steady pace of a beam of light. Let yourself relax into that fairness. There's no need to resolve every edge case or chase every what if. Picture yourself on a quiet train, feeling the gentle sway. Picture another you on a platform, feeling the stillness of the ground. Each of you shines a small flashlight and watches the beam push forward with the same composure. To support that shared sight, time and distance make small, graceful changes behind the scenes. They lengthen a breath here. They gather a span there. They let now slide just a touch for one, and meanwhile drift a touch for the other. The promise holds for both. The wonder is that this isn't a messy compromise, but a clean design. The universe prefers consistency over convenience. It could have chosen a rigid stage where one vantage point ruled them all and everyone else had to translate. Instead, it chose a living stage, one that adapts just enough to be fair. The price for that fairness is that we give up a single universal now. The gift we receive is harmony. Two travelers with different views can still agree on the essential music. So if you ever feel the world is complicated beyond comfort, think of this softness as a lullaby. The laws hum the same tune for every steady listener. Light keeps time like a trusted drummer, and space and time, far from being hard edges, are caring stagehands, moving props in the dark, shifting marks on the floor, making sure everyone sees the same cue at the right moment. You don't have to analyze it. You can just rest in the knowledge that the show runs perfectly from every seat, and that somewhere in the quiet, a beam of light is gliding past, steady and serene, keeping the beat for all of us. Imagine trying to chase the horizon on a long, empty beach. No matter how fast you run, that thin line where sea meets sky keeps the same quiet distance from you. You feel the wind change on your face, your feet move quicker, your breath deepen, but the horizon doesn't care. Pushing a thing with weight toward the pace of light is like that. Each new effort moves you closer, yes, but what you're chasing keeps slipping just beyond reach, not out of stubbornness, but because of how the world is built. At first, speeding up feels simple. A gentle push makes a bike roll. A stronger push makes a car surge. An engine takes you faster still. You get used to the idea that more effort means more speed. But as your speed climbs toward the special pace we've been talking about, the universe quietly changes what your effort buys. The same shove that once gave you a satisfying burst begins to purchase something else. It buys you more energy, more momentum, more tension in the weave of time and distance around you, but less and less extra speed. It's as if the road ahead tilts upwards so gradually you almost don't notice, until one day you realize you're on a hill that keeps getting steeper the harder you try. You can picture it like rowing a boat on a river that quickens where it narrows. At the start, each stroke brings a clear gain. Later, the current roars and your strokes are swallowed by the water's rush. You're still pouring in effort. You're still building up strain in your muscles and oars, but the boat's speed hardly changes anymore. Near the pace of light, pushes don't stop mattering, far from it. They matter so much that they mostly reshape time for you and bend distance in subtle ways, leaving very little left over to increase your speed. The closer you try to slide into light's lane, the more your effort gets redirected into the world's bookkeeping. From your own seat, everything feels steady and sane. Your heart beats, your watch ticks, your ship hums with power. But if someone watches from the outside, they see your onboard clock slowing compared to theirs. They see the length of your ship along the direction of its travel pulling in a little. They see the energy inside the ship ballooning, not because you've broken anything, but because the world is carefully adjusting its measures to keep the promise it made about light's steady pace. You are not punished, you are protected. The rules keep cause and effect from getting tangled. They guide your push into channels the world can honor, and one of those channels is a deepening resistance to the simple act of going faster. Think about a rocket for a moment, though not in numbers or diagrams, just the feeling of it. A rocket goes faster by throwing something backward. Hot gas, ion exhaust, starlight, anything it can push against. But the faster the rocket moves, the more it must throw away to earn the same tiny nudge in speed. It must carry fuel to accelerate fuel to accelerate fuel, a nesting doll of effort that grows absurdly large, like trying to climb a mountain by building the mountain taller under your feet. Even with a perfect engine that wastes nothing, the same steepening shows up. The climb near the top is all cliff. Nature shows us this gently in the smallest travelers. High above the atmosphere, tiny particles arrive from violent corners of the cosmos, carrying a ferocious cargo of energy. They zip through space so close to light's pace that the difference feels microscopic. And yet, that last sliver remains. If you wanted to trim that sliver even thinner, you'd need to pour in energy not in teaspoons, but in oceans. Each step closer to light's stride costs more than all the steps before. It's not a wall you crash into. It's a price that rises without end. Inside your craft, the sensation isn't one of slamming into a barrier. It's more like walking down a hall that keeps stretching, a corridor that never quite ends. Your engines roar louder, your systems run hotter, your navigation lights blur into lines. The corridor nods and lengthens a little more. The design is kind because it prevents accidents of logic. messages arriving before they're sent, choices made after their consequences. The same design is firm because it doesn't make exceptions for effort or ambition. It reminds everything with weight. You belong to time in a way light does not. There's comfort in this fairness. The world does not single out your ship and say no. It says yes, but differently. It says, I will take your effort and return it as deeper time for you, as tighter folding of space along your path, as safety for the order of events. If you could listen closely enough, you might hear the faint rustle of pages turning in your journal, each new page taking a little longer to fill as your speed grows. The entries still come. Your story still unfolds. The rhythm just loosens for you compared with someone at rest. And that loosening is where much of your fuel ends up. If this sounds heavy, let it lighten into a softer image. Picture a child on a merry-go-round, reaching out for a ring that swings past each lap. Each time they get closer, fingertips brushing the edge of it, laughter rising with the wind. The ring is always just a breath beyond the hand. The fun isn't spoiled by not grabbing it. The game exists because it stays just out of reach. Light's pace is like that ring, a mark that keeps the game of motion fair for all players, ensuring the ride never twists itself into knots. Every tool we build to push the limits discovers the same story. The more perfect the machine, the more clearly the pattern appears. Long, whispering accelerators fling small particles down polished tunnels and watch them bloom with energy beyond easy imagination. The instruments nod and say, yes, you're closer than ever. But when they ask for one more tiny step in speed, the cost leaps again. The graphs bend their backs toward a horizon they never touch. The machines are not failing. They are telling us, with exquisite precision, that the room has rules, and those rules are being kept. For living bodies, there's an added kindness in this design. Your bones and brain are built for the slow currents of everyday gravity and wind. They love smooth, gentle pushes and steady arcs. The universe's steepening near light's pace protects those bodies from sudden, violent contradictions. It spares you from a world where a small mistake could fling signals backward in time or fold events into confusion. The resistance you feel near the limit is the same soft hand that keeps the story of your life turning forward page after page. If your mind starts to chase the what if, bring it back to something close and quiet. Think of a flashlight in your palm. When you switch it on, the beam doesn't need to accelerate. It steps into existence already, walking at the universe's chosen stride. Your hand feels warm, your eyes catch the glow on the wall, and the beam goes on with zero fuss. Now imagine a polished steel ball you try to throw after that beam. Your first throw closes the gap. Your second does too, but each new throw gains less. Soon, you're pouring in strength, your shoulder aches, and the beam is still slipping gently ahead, not faster, not slower, simply itself. You haven't failed. You've discovered a property of the stage you're playing on. There's a quiet beauty in accepting this. Limits can feel like fences, but they can also feel like shorelines, shapes that give the ocean its music. Because no massive thing can match light's stride, the universe keeps its melody intact. Messages unfold in order. Journeys make sense from every seat in the theatre. Travelers may take different paths through time, but they still agree on the essential cues. The unanswered chase is not a frustration. It's a frame that lets everything else be gentle and true. So rest with this picture. The pace of light is the horizon of motion. As you move toward it, the world asks for more and more in exchange, and what it gives back is the safety of cause before effect, the grace of consistent stories, the hush of a cosmos that doesn't contradict itself. Push if you like, build beautiful engines, taste the thrill of nearing the edge. But when you look up and see the horizon still out there, the line of sea and sky, perfectly calm, know that nothing is wrong. The world is doing exactly what it promised, protecting the rhythm that holds us all. Close your eyes for a moment and feel that rhythm in your breath. Effort, ease, effort, ease. The horizon stays, the ocean breathes, and somewhere, as always, a beam of light glides on. Imagine a traveler who never has to pack, never has to start moving, never even remembers what it felt like to be still. That traveler is light's smallest messenger. It doesn't warm up or wind up. It appears already in motion, born mid-stride at the universe's chosen pace. No countdown, no push, no ramp, just arrival and immediate flight. If everything with weight must bargain with effort to go faster, this little messenger never bargains at all. It doesn't know what speeding up means. To exist is to go. You've met these messengers 1,000 times without noticing. They bounce from the sun to the sea and back to your eyes. They slip out of a candle flame like tiny sighs. They bloom from a phone screen, a street lamp, a lightning strike, a distant star so old its light began traveling before your ancestors had names. Each one is a single note in a vast song. At high volume, the notes overlap and sound like a smooth chord. Turn the volume down, and you can remember that a chord is built from many little tones, each ringing on its own. Light can feel like a steady beam, but underneath it is a quiet rain of individual arrivals, each with a small purpose and a sure-footed path. Where do they come from? Picture an atom inside a star, inside a light bulb, inside a firefly's lantern. Something within it shifts from a state of more to a state of less. And in that tiny shuffle, a messenger is released. It's not pushed from behind. It's not yanked ahead. It simply begins in motion, the way a bell's sound begins already spreading through the air the instant you tap it. Sometimes the messenger is born when a charge is jostled in a wire. Sometimes it arrives when a molecule in a leaf is ready to pass energy along, as if saying, "Catch," and tossing a bright, weightless token that can only travel by moving at the limit. If you could try to set one down, place it delicately on a table, and tell it to rest, you'd find there is no place for it to sit. Rest is not part of its vocabulary. It has no way to loiter in a corner of space and wait. It is the event of going. When it meets matter, the journey ends not by landing and napping, but by handing itself over. In your eye, that handoff becomes a tiny electrical whisper, the beginning of sight. In a camera, it becomes a speck of image. In a leaf, it becomes sugar and life. In your skin, it becomes warmth. The messenger never grows tired. It is simply transformed. Even though it has no weight the way a stone has weight, it can still give a nudge. That seems like a paradox until you feel how gentle but real the nudge is. A sail in space, polished and wide, can catch sunlight and drift forward, shepherded by a rain of messengers, too small to see one by one. Comet tails point away from the sun, partly because sunlight is not just light, it's pressure, a steady tap, tap, tap that persuades dust to drift. Stand in the shade on a bright day and think, a breeze of brightness, pushing softly, always arriving at the same tireless pace. This little traveler carries identity without paperwork. Its color is the tone of the note it sings, sometimes warm, sometimes cool, sometimes far beyond what our eyes can hear. Your skin can sense notes, your eyes cannot. A radio can sense notes, your skin cannot. The petals of a flower may wear patterns only a bee can see. The messenger doesn't change its stride to please anyone. It brings its note, and different listeners are tuned to different parts of the song. Sometimes it feels as though the messenger is two things at once. In one mood, you notice the ripple, the way light spreads like rings on a lake. In another mood, you notice the bead, the way a single arrival can trigger a single response. These are not two creatures fighting. They are two ways of listening to the same music. When you back up and look at the big picture, the ripple tells you how the chorus travels. When you lean in close to a single instrument, you hear the pluck of a string. The messenger is the pluck, the ripple is the music, and both are true at once. On its journeys, the messenger respects the character of space the way a boat respects the river. In open water, it glides with zero fuss. In crowded channels, glass, water, mist, it pauses to converse and then resumes, so the whole trip seems slower. But in the clear reaches between worlds, nothing drags on it. It doesn't speed up on good days or slow down on bad ones. It doesn't carry a memory of yesterday's weather. It is the same steady stride, again and again, like a heartbeat you can trust from horizon to horizon. Near heavy things, the riverbed curves. You can't see space itself, but you can watch the paths of messengers bend around massive bodies, the way a stream flows around a rock. A star behind another star seems to smear into a ring or split into several images. The messenger never changes its pace. The stage itself changes shape, and the traveler follows the shape. You don't need to solve it. You can simply picture brightness curving gently, like sunlight in shallow water bending around your ankle. Open a room of darkness and let a single messenger in through a pinhole. Perhaps it will strike the wall. Perhaps it will be absorbed by a molecule in the air. Perhaps it will slip through unbothered and leave again. At some mirrors and thin films, chance becomes part of the story, not because the messenger is confused, but because the world, at its smallest scales, is written in possibilities. Only when the handoff happens, only when the wall or your eye or a tiny sensor says, "I have it," does the maybes condense into a yes. This is not a trick to make you dizzy. It is how the universe keeps itself lively and creative, while still honoring that same steady stride. In the quiet hours, it's comforting to think how far a messenger can go. From the heart of a galaxy that spins like a slow pinwheel, from the flash of a star's last breath, from the first soft glow that bathed the cosmos long ago. Messengers have been traveling across ages to reach us. When they arrive, we gather their stories. A pattern in a telescope, a map of faint warmth across the sky, a color in a flower petal, a sparkle on the surface of a lake at dusk. Each story is small. Together, they let us read the universe like a book. You can hold this in your mind without wrestling it. Light's smallest traveler is not trying to beat a record. It is the record. It sets the tempo others approach. Anything with weight can only flirt with that pace, spending more and more effort for less and less gain, while the messenger floats past, unhurried and unhurriable, always at the limit, because that is what it means to be what it is. The rules that seem like boundaries for other things are home for it. The limit others approach is the ground under its feet, or rather, the river under its boat. And when its journey ends, when it meets a pupil, a leaf, a grain of sand, there is no sadness in the ending. It is a handoff in a relay that never stops. The messenger arrives and becomes part of what it touches. A nerve signal, a chemical bond, a pulse of electricity, a hint of warmth that eases cold fingers. Somewhere else, another tiny shift in an atom, another trembling charge in a wire, another spark in a storm, releases another messenger to take up the route. The paths overlap and interweave until the world looks bright to us. But even if you dim the lights and wait, you can imagine them still. Solitary arrivals, soft and certain, born in motion, gone in transformation. So when you switch off the lamp and the room settles to grey, remember that the darkness isn't empty. It is full of routes waiting to be walked and stories waiting to be told. The instant you open the curtain, the messengers pour in, each one a small note that has been ringing since it was born. They do not dawdle. They do not stumble. They do not learn or forget. They simply are the going, the quiet stride the universe keeps. Let that steadiness rock you. Let the certainty of these tiny couriers ease your breath. Somewhere, everywhere, they are already on their way. Imagine the universe as a great, quiet library at night. The lamps are low, the air is still, and a gentle librarian moves from shelf to shelf, making sure every book is in its place. Stories only make sense when the pages stay in order. Chapter 1, then Chapter 2, then Chapter 3. You could shuffle the sheets and still see words on paper, but the meaning would fray. Reality is like that. It stays meaningful because causes step onto the stage before their effects. A glass falls, then it shatters. A match is struck, then the flame appears. A doorbell rings, then footsteps come down the hall. The pace of light is the librarian's rule, a calm, steady standard that keeps the pages from slipping out of sequence. Think of it as a soft traffic light at every crossroads of time. Green for go when a signal can reach. Red for not yet where it cannot. The color isn't a matter of personal preference. It's set by how far light could have traveled since a moment began. Inside that gentle circle, your actions can touch other things. Outside it, they can't. At least, not yet. The circle grows with time like the glow around a lantern in fog, widening without hurry, letting more places come into reach. That growing glow protects the story. It says, first this, then that. No sneaking messages around the back of the stage. No conversations answered before they're asked. If that sounds abstract, try a simpler picture. Imagine you're by a lake at dusk. You drop a pebble and ripples move outward. A moment later, you drop another pebble somewhere else. The second set of ripples can't arrive at a far shore before the first, because they started later and they move with the same steady gait. The shore will always feel the earlier touch first. The lake refuses to tell the story out of order. The universe is a lake like that. Light is its ripple, and the ripples are how news travels. News of pushes and pulls, of switches and sparks, of choices and changes. Now imagine the mischief that would happen if someone could send a whisper faster than that ripple. A hand could ring the bell, and at a distant house, the sound would arrive before the hand had even moved. A letter could land in your mailbox with a postmark from tomorrow morning. Two friends could arrange a trick where each receives a warning before the other decides to send it. At first, it feels like a clever loophole. Then it collapses into knots. Promises you could keep only by breaking them. Decisions you could make only after their consequences had already happened. The library would be full of books whose last pages had wandered to the front. The story would still have letters and sentences, but the meaning would unspool. Instead, the world keeps a kinder rule. Every signal, shouts, beams, pulses, nudges in fields, travels at light's measured pace or slower. That's all. Nothing fancier than that. And yet, it's enough to protect the spine of every story. From your seat, it might not feel like a grand design. It's just how things are. You flip a switch, and the lamp turns on after the wires deliver the news. You clap your hands, and someone across the field hears the sound afterwards, not before. Even the devices that knit the planet together, satellites, cables, networks that share time, carry their messages in lines that honor this order. There are clocks up there that count differently than clocks down here, but the system leans in and corrects gently so the sequence stays clean. First the count, then the note. First the note, then the reply. The same rule that guards stories guards safety. Imagine cooking without order. Bread baking before the dough is mixed. Water boiling before the stove is lit. It sounds silly, but that is what it would feel like if causes and effects could trade places. The light speed limit is a quiet shield against that kind of confusion. It stops a spark from announcing itself across the universe before it even exists. It keeps storms from sending warnings back into yesterday. It doesn't scold or punish. It simply sets the pace for how influence can move, like a river that refuses to flow uphill. You can hold this without any strain by watching how your own life unfolds. A thought appears. You reach for a cup. The cup lifts. The warm rim touches your lip. Your body is a chain of little messengers, each passing news to the next at the speed nature allows. Signals in your nerves, flashes between cells, tiny bursts of light in your eyes. All of them respect the same hush-hush rule. And because they do, you feel a smooth flow rather than a jumble. Your memories line up. Your choices lead to outcomes. Even when surprises bend your plans, they do it in order. First the surprise, then your new plan. There's a gentleness to how the world enforces this. It doesn't need locks and bolts. It just gives everyone the same metronome. If you ride a train at night while someone else stands on the platform, both of you can shine a small beam and find it moving away at the same faithful tempo. To keep that promise, time and distance adjust by tiny amounts that neither of you can feel at ordinary speeds. Those adjustments are not there to trick you. They are the stagehands moving props behind the curtain so the play runs on time. The effect is a quiet fairness. No matter which seat you choose, the scene you watch won't contradict another viewer's scene. The cues come when they should. Sometimes, in the small theatre of the very tiny, the show gets playful. Two particles seem to share a secret that doesn't care about distance. It's a beautiful magic trick. But even that magic doesn't let you sneak a message ahead of the ripple. The trick's punchline only appears when ordinary, slower communications compare notes later. The library's order remains. The lantern's circle keeps widening at its gentle rate. The ripples still reach the shore in the right sequence. Think, too, of the sky. A star explodes far away, and the news of that last bright breath travels toward us. It moves faithfully, crossing gaps so vast you and I can't really imagine them. When the glow finally arrives, we stand together and watch. We do not see the effect before the cause. We do not get tomorrow's fire today. We get it when the ripple reaches this shore. The universe could have been built otherwise, but it chose calm and clarity. It chose to let events unfurl like a ribbon, not a tangle. If you're ever tempted to feel caged by a limit, hold it differently. Limits can be fences, but they can also be handrails on a dark staircase. They guide your steps so you don't fall. This one is a handrail for time. It lets your life read like a book instead of a pile of loose pages. It lets science be practical. Experiments begin and then end. Results follow methods. Signals go out and then return. It lets love have rhythm. You write, they answer, you arrive, they open the door, you speak, they smile. A universe that keeps promises about order is a universe where softness can thrive. Notice how, with this handrail in place, the mind can relax. You don't have to watch for wandering endings or backward breezes. You can trust the sequence of simple things. The kettle whistles after the heat has had its time. The rainbows in a sprinkler appear after the sun has found the spray. The echo answers after your call meets the canyon wall. Even when you dream of faster ships and grand adventures, you can dream inside a story that holds together. Ships leave, then arrive. Messages send, then deliver. Journeys begin, then end. So let this settle like a lullaby. The world is not in a hurry to confuse you. It has arranged itself with a gentle rule that keeps your days readable. Somewhere, right now, a child is tossing a stone into a pond and watching the circles widen. Somewhere else, a lighthouse is sweeping a beam across sleeping water. Everywhere, a calm boundary moves outward, soft as breath, letting influences meet without colliding with their own shadows. The librarian walks the aisles and straightens a spine here, slides a page back there, keeps the shelves in order. You don't need to help. You can close your eyes and feel the comfort of a story that will always place its causes before its effects. A universe that will still make sense in the morning. Imagine a wide, peaceful hallway filled with friendly people. In the middle of the night, you decide to take a quiet walk straight through. When the hall is empty, you glide along without a single pause, steady, effortless, free. That's light moving through empty space. Now picture the hallway during a soft evening party. No one is trying to stop you. They're just there, smiling, shifting, turning to make room. You still move forward, but every few steps your pace adjusts as you weave between gentle conversations and outstretched hands. That's light moving through water, glass, air, or fog. The journey is the same direction. The feeling is the same calm intention. But the presence of others gives your walk a different rhythm. This is why the world can honestly say two things at once. The ultimate pace of light in empty space is a firm rule, and also, light seems slower in materials. The rule isn't broken, the stage has changed. Inside a material, countless tiny dancers, the charges inside atoms and molecules, notice light passing by and sway in response. Their coordinated swaying briefly borrows a bit of the wave's motion, then hands it back. Think of a stadium doing the crowd wave. Each person only rises for a moment, then sits, but the pattern moves on. Because the crowd participates, the pattern's progress changes. Not wrong, not rebellious, just different. Because the room is fuller. You might have heard the simplified story that light stops, gets picked up, and re-emitted over and over. The truth is gentler and more continuous than that. In clear materials, the glow doesn't keep starting and stopping like a stuttering flashlight. Instead, the light's pattern and the material move together for a moment, like two dancers clasping hands as they pass. The pattern keeps its general shape, but its forward stride eases for a beat, then resumes. Add up countless tiny handshakes, and the journey takes a little longer. The room didn't change the rule about the ultimate pace. The room added choreography. You can see the result all around you. A straw in a glass of water looks bent. A spoon in tea shimmers. Sunlight through a window warms your face a fraction of a breath later than it warmed the grass outside. A prism catches a beam and fans it into a little rainbow. Different colors feel the tug of the material differently, so they stroll at slightly different rhythms. Red takes one path, blue takes another. The rule in empty space still holds like a heartbeat, but inside the crystal, each color has its own favorite conversation with the crowd, and the crowd answers back with a soft, orderly delay. Our modern world is built on this kindness of materials. Your internet races along strands of glass that look like threads of ice. Inside those fibers, light carries messages with patience and reliability, but it does so at the pace the glass allows, still quick, just not as quick as a leap through emptiness. Engineers design routes, bends, and timings with this in mind, the way a city planner times lights for traffic. The messages arrive not because the rule is abandoned, but because it's honored with care in a world that isn't empty. Sometimes, artists of science coax the light's pattern to slow down far more than everyday glass does. They choose special materials, chill gases to hushed temperatures, and arrange the conditions so the crowds sway, becomes especially engaged with the glow. In those moments, the pattern can creep like a careful bicycle instead of darting like a swift bird. It feels like magic, but the promise of the universe doesn't blink. Information still respects the handrail of order. The part of the wave that truly carries the news never gets permission to outrun the rule set by emptiness. The trick is all in how the pattern and the medium braid together. This gentleness even protects us from being fooled by flashy illusions. There are situations where a wave's peak seems to glide faster than the ultimate pace, like a shadow racing across a distant mountain. But a moving shadow isn't a message. It's a reshaping of light that was already on its way. The headline itself, the first whisper of "something is coming," keeps the same decorum everywhere. It cannot arrive before the universe allows. The world chooses clarity over spectacle. There is another scene that can puzzle at first, and then soothe once you see it clearly. Deep in a pool of very clear water, you might notice a ghostly blue glow in certain places where powerful particles pass. What's happening is simple to feel. Those particles are moving faster than light's permitted pace in that water, but not faster than light's ultimate pace in empty space. It's like a speedboat, moving faster than the ripples it creates on a lake, legal on water, impossible in air. The boat doesn't break the laws of the sea. It just outruns waves in that medium, leaving a bright signature behind. The grand rule remains untouched. Walk back to the hallway image and let it stretch. In vacuum, the hall is deserted. Your footsteps sound softly and you cover ground with perfect ease. In glass, the hall is kindly crowded. The same friendliness that slows you also supports you. The people in the hall are the reason light can bend around a lens and focus into a crisp point. They are the reason a camera can paint a sharp scene on a sensor, and your eye can bring a flower into bloom. The slowness is not a flaw. It's a feature that lets images form and colors separate, and tiny details become visible. Because materials join the dance, the path of light can curve. A beam that would have gone straight now bows toward the thicker part of the crowd, like a traveler naturally choosing the path of least bustle. That bow is how a pair of glasses sharpens vision, how a raindrop creates a rainbow, how a microscope whispers secrets from the very small. Inside each of those tools, light is conversing with matter, and the conversation takes a moment. That moment is the price of focus and clarity, and it is worth every heartbeat. Even air, which seems empty, is a slimmed down crowd. Hot days make it wobble in layers. Warm here, cooler there, and the light's path wiggles with it. You see distant roads shimmer, and far-off buildings seem to float. The glow isn't misbehaving, it's being polite, answering each tiny change in the room with a tiny change in stride. The picture you see is the sum of 1,000 small courtesies between light and the air. If you hold a stained glass window between yourself and the sun, the colors that spill across the floor are the result of these courtesies. Different dyes and structures invite different kinds of light to chat for different lengths of time. Some notes step lightly through. Others linger in the conversation and emerge later, arriving at your eyes as rich reds, calm blues, and gentle greens. It's one long, orderly line of cause and effect. The sun sings, the glass listens and answers, and your eyes hear a harmony shaped by the room. In all of this, the deepest comfort is that nothing sneaks around the librarian of time. The order of stories is safe. The handoff from medium to medium happens inside that order. When a beam leaves the window and enters the room, it takes up the freer stride of the open air. When it slips from air into glass and back out again, it adapts each time, like a practiced dancer changing partners between songs. The tempo set by emptiness is the reference melody, always there, always defining what as fast as possible means. Materials add harmony and rhythm. They never rewrite the tune. Let your shoulders drop at that thought. Light isn't breaking rules when it moves more slowly through water or glass. It's respecting the character of the place it's passing through, the way a guest respects a home. The guest removes their shoes on a soft rug, steps lightly on creaking boards, speeds up in a smooth corridor, and pauses at a threshold. The destination is reached in good order because the guest listens. The world is full of such listening. So the next time you notice how sunlight bends at the surface of a lake, or how a prism scatters a beam into a fan of color, or how your phone still talks to a friend across the ocean through hair-thin glass, remember the hallway. Empty space is the midnight corridor where a traveler floats without interruption. Materials are the warm gathering where the same traveler slows just enough to say, "Excuse me," "After you," "Thank you," and then continues on. The rule remains, the story stays in order, and the light arrives beautifully on time. Imagine two musicians who learn a duet together in the same quiet room. They practice until the timing is perfect, every rise matched by a fall, every pause shared. Then they take different trains to faraway cities. On a certain night, at the same agreed minute, they both begin to play. You're in one city, listening to the first musician. Somewhere else, someone is listening to the second. Neither player hears the other. Yet, if you later compare recordings, you'll find the same breath taken at the same bar, the same gentle swell answering the same hush. That's how entanglement feels. Two parts of one preparation, still bound by a deep pattern even after they've drifted apart. It is not a message from one to the other. It's a shared score written before either began to play. When people first hear about this, it sounds like a shortcut across space. If one musician changes tempo, does the other instantly know? If I tap a secret rhythm here, do you get it there before any ordinary signal could travel? The tempting answer is yes, but the world is kinder and more careful than that. Entanglement gives you matching notes when you finally compare, but it will not let you pick those notes to spell out a word. The outcome from either player's performance, taken alone, looks like a lovely kind of coin toss. Nothing you can steer into a yes or a no. Nothing you can bend into a sentence. Only later, when you lay the two recordings side by side, does the hidden choreography appear. Think of a pair of coins prepared in a special way and sealed in separate envelopes. You and a friend take one envelope each and wander to opposite sides of the world. When you open yours, you might find heads or tails. You can't force it. Your friend opens theirs and sees the opposite. Opening yours did not send a signal that flipped theirs. The pairing was baked in at the start. Entanglement is stranger than coins, softer and more musical, but the moral is the same. You can't use your envelope as a telegraph. You can't choose heads to tell your friend, "Meet me at noon." Even if you try clever tricks, changing the way you look, turning your measuring device this way or that, the result where you stand remains a stream of fair, uneditable outcomes. On the other side, your friend's stream looks just as fair and just as uneditable. The instant you try to tug the stream toward a message, the world quietly refuses. Only after you both send your lists through ordinary channels, an email, a phone call, a satellite link that obeys the same old pace, do the matching patterns reveal themselves. The aha moment always waits for the slow road. This is not stinginess. It's the universe protecting the order of stories. If entanglement let you pick outcomes and push a message through them, you could answer a question before it was asked. A beacon could light up yesterday's sky. A decision could ripple backward and twist the sequence that gives life its sense. Instead, the world offers a gentler magic, the strongest correlations you can imagine, stitched so tightly that no ordinary explanation of hidden instructions quite works, yet still harmless to the librarian who keeps cause before effect. You might hear about experiments where the two players, two tiny pieces of matter or light, are separated by mountains, by cities, even by the curvature of the earth. The devices that listen to them sit under careful shielding and whisper their results into clocks. When researchers later bring the logs together, the familiar duet reappears. A rise matched by a fall, a hush matched by a breath. But during the performance, each device saw only its own solitary stream. No messages outran the usual couriers. The pattern lived in the joint story, not in either solo. There's an old nickname for entanglement that sounds spooky, as if something leaps the gap and forces a change. It helps to take the spookiness down a notch. Nothing bolts across space to push a switch. What changes instantly is your description, your knowledge, once you've looked. Before you opened your envelope, you used a broad description that allowed several outcomes. After you looked, you used a narrower one. The other envelope didn't receive a shove from far away. It was part of the same preparation, and your new description recognizes that. The universe did not need to move anything faster than light to accommodate your updated understanding. Suppose you try a different approach. You arrange a more elaborate trick with 3 or 4 performers. Perhaps you even try a swap. 2 players who never met become part of the same duet because of how their partners were measured. That too can happen. The choreography can be rethreaded in surprising ways. But again, the surprise shows itself only when notes are gathered and compared. During the show, each local performance remains a solo from its own point of view. No secret code carried in the pauses, no urgent word smuggled between the beats. What about the word teleportation? It sounds like a door slamming open between here and there. The truth is quieter and, in a way, more beautiful. Imagine you have a delicate melody in one room and want that melody to reappear in another room far away. You and your friend set up a shared duet ahead of time, an entangled pair. When you're ready, you make a careful, one-time kind of measurement that blends your delicate melody with your half of the duet. The act destroys, the original in your room, leaving behind a pair of ordinary bits of news. Yes, no, left, right, that you must send by the standard route. Only when those two tiny pieces of ordinary news arrive does your friend know exactly how to tune their half of the duet. They make a small adjustment, and the melody appears there, fresh and whole. Nothing raced ahead of a beam. The original was not copied. It was relinquished so the new one could be born. The trick works only because entanglement supplies a shared frame, and because the world insists that the steering instructions take the long road. There is another gentle rule that helps keep things sensible. You cannot make a perfect, secret duplicate of an unknown, delicate melody. Copying it exactly while keeping the original would let you build a stack of identical songs and shout your message to the ends of space in an instant. The universe quietly forbids that. It allows echoes, approximations, and recordings when you're willing to change what you touch. It does not allow endless, perfect clones. This softness closes another door to shortcuts, and in doing so, keeps the rest of the house livable. If you go looking, you'll find demonstrations of entanglement woven into technologies we use or dream about. They're there in secure communications that let two distant listeners share a secret key and notice eavesdroppers as if by intuition. They're there in sensors that listen for tiny disturbances by noticing when a duet is knocked out of tune. They're there in the earliest steps toward new kinds of computing, where many possibilities can be held in a careful superposition and then coaxed by design into answering the one question you asked. In each case, entanglement is a resource, not a courier pigeon. The courier still takes the road lit by ordinary light. If you'd like an image to settle your thoughts, try this one. Two snowflakes form from the same breath of winter and drift apart on a windless night. From your window, you watch one land on the sill, delicate and unique. Your friend across the street watches the other. Neither of you can control the pattern you'll see. When you later trace the shapes and compare, you notice an uncanny kinship, curves that rhyme, branches that echo one another. The likeness isn't a message passed between them mid-air. It's a memory of how they began. Or picture this. Two dancers backstage agree on a sequence. Spin, step, bow, and then walk to opposite wings. The curtain rises. Each performs alone, and the audience in each wing sees a complete, self-contained piece. No one in either audience can tell, from what they saw, that there was another dancer. But when the director watches the recordings together, the harmony appears. The timing dovetails. The shapes answer one another. The duet existed in the rehearsal and in the reunion, not in any secret shout across the stage. All the while, the handrail that keeps stories in order stays in place. Light's steady pace remains the line on the road. Entanglement does not paint a door through the mountains. It marks a route that was always shared and reveals itself only when both travelers lay their maps side by side. Until then, each sees their own path. A bend here, a clearing there, a stream crossing, a patch of shade. The miracle is not in outrunning the sun. It's in finding, later, that two journeys learned the same song. So let your shoulders drop. You don't need to wrestle with paradoxes to feel the comfort in this. Entanglement is a deep, quiet thread woven into the fabric of things. It ties distant parts of the world into patterns that only become visible when patience brings their stories together. It is powerful without being pushy, surprising without being disorderly. It does not break the librarian's rules. It does not slip notes under the door before they're written. It invites you to marvel that two faraway players can still share a rhythm, and then it guides you back to the same gentle truth as always. Messages travel at the pace the universe allows. Causes keep their place before effects, and the music of reality stays in time. Close your eyes to that music if you like. Somewhere, two musicians are beginning together, apart, and the duet is perfect. Imagine a theatre where the stage itself begins to breathe. So slowly, you only notice it if you sit very still. The boards stretch under the actor's feet. The marks on the floor drift farther apart. No one is running. No one is pushing. Yet the distance between everyone grows. This is our cosmos. Not an explosion that hurled things into a waiting emptiness, but a widening of the emptiness itself. A gentle lengthening of the room in which everything rests. If you prefer a kitchen picture, imagine a loaf of raisin bread rising in an oven. The dough swells. The raisins are simply passengers. Each raisin sees every other raisin moving away, not because the raisins are crawling through the dough, but because the dough is expanding between them. No raisin is the center. Every raisin can point and say, "Look, they're all receding from me," and be right. The universe keeps that same friendly fairness. From any galaxy's point of view, the others are easing away along the stretching grain of space. It helps to hold this gently in your mind. Expansion is not a wind. It's not a shove. It's the slow change in the distant scale of reality itself. That means close-knit families don't drift apart. Atoms don't loosen. Your coffee cup doesn't grow. The earth doesn't slide away from the sun. Where gravity, or electromagnetism, or even the simple sturdiness of matter holds things together, those bonds win by a mile. The stretching is real, but it's thin as silk compared to the grip of a star on its planets or a galaxy on its spiral of suns. Expansion speaks in the wide, quiet spaces between clusters of galaxies, where there's room for the stage to unfurl, because the stage itself is stretching. Faraway galaxies can appear to retreat faster than any ship could ever sail. That can sound like a rule being broken, but no one is actually outrunning a beam of light in their local patch of floor. Nothing zips past you in your seat faster than that steady pace. Instead, more floor is sliding in between distant seats, like aisles lengthening while the theatre hums along with the same music. Locally, the promise about light still holds. The faster-than-light bit belongs to the geometry of the room, not to any traveller sprinting through it. This slow widening paints the sky with the softest of brushes. When a distant galaxy sends out its glow, that glow is a travelling pattern. Peaks and troughs, colour and tone. As it crosses the enlarging room, the pattern is stretched. Its steps lengthen. Warm hues wander toward cooler ones. Tight ripples smooth into wider waves. By the time that ancient message reaches your eyes or a telescope's mirror, its colour carries the memory of all the space it has crossed. You don't need to calculate anything. Just imagine a bell tone that, while it travels, has its pitch lowered by the room's gentle breathing. What began as a bright chime arrives as a deeper, calmer note. The oldest note of all bathes us constantly, a faint, everywhere whisper, like the hush of the ocean heard from far inland. It's the afterglow from a time when the universe was a hot fog, too dense for light to travel freely. As the room expanded and cooled, that fog thinned and cleared, and light finally slipped loose to roam. The glow from that clearing has been on the road ever since, stretched by the widening into a mellow, invisible warmth that surrounds us. We've learned to build instruments that can feel it, the way your skin can feel sunlight on a winter day. It's a baby picture of the cosmos, still tucked behind the glass of the present. When we look outward, we are also looking backward. Far galaxies are far in space and far in time. Their light left when they were younger, and we see them as they were then. A telescope becomes a kind of time window, opening onto old chapters. Some pages are easy to read. Others are faded by distance and by the stretching of the journey. But the order of the story is kind. We are always paging backward as we look farther, never peeking ahead, never jumping out of sequence. The widening room protects that order, even as it lengthens the path of every messenger. There are places we can't see, not because they are hidden behind walls, but because the stage has stretched so much between us and them that their light, sent today, will never reach our seat. It isn't a punishment. It's a horizon, like mist over the sea. Near shores are clear, far shores fade and then disappear into the quiet. There's also a different kind of horizon that marks how far back we can look, the line at which the early fog was still too thick for light to travel. Beyond that, the room was bright but not transparent, a nursery with the curtains drawn. Horizons don't make the world smaller. They give it a shape your mind can rest inside. Sometimes, people ask where the center is, or what the expansion is pushing into. The gentlest answer is that center is wherever you stand. Stand on any raisin in the loaf, and you see the same receding. Stand in any seat in the theater, and the aisles lengthen around you the same way. There is no outside hallway into which the stage is growing. The stage is all there is, and its measurements are changing everywhere at once. Edges and centers are ideas from smaller rooms. Out here, the room carries its own rules. If you're wondering why some neighbors misbehave, why a nearby galaxy might be drifting toward us instead of away, remember that local bonds are strong. The Milky Way and Andromeda are partners in a small, gravitational waltz. Their shared pull easily overrules the faint tug of expansion at their short distance. On large scales, the crowd moves with the widening room. On small scales, couples and clusters dance to their own music, and that's fine. The grand pattern is made from many local exceptions that cancel out when you step back far enough to see the wallpaper. As the ages pass, the rate of stretching itself can change its mind. Gravity, the same gentle glue that holds planets and stars together, tries to slow the widening by pulling on the whole tapestry. For a long time, that slowing and the initial momentum of the expansion wrestled in balance. Later, another influence began to show, something that acts not like a pull, but like a soft pressure on the fabric, encouraging it to spread a bit faster than it otherwise would. You don't have to give that influence a name tonight. It's enough to imagine the stagehands quietly turning a hidden wheel and the planks beneath your feet creeping just a touch more briskly apart. The room is not static. It has a mood that can shift. Look again at the journey of a single beam from a far shore. While it travels, the shoreline itself is sliding away. The result is oddly tender. The messenger can spend ages on the road, covering vast spans that themselves are growing and still succeed. Sometimes it arrives redder and quieter than it began, but it arrives. Other times, the widening steals the possibility, and the messenger's path is stretched so much that the destination recedes forever. Both outcomes fit inside the rules that keep stories ordered and light's pace honored. There's a calm humility in realizing that our universe is partly a matter of where we are and when we are. The observable part, the piece we can see, is a shimmering bubble defined by how far light has had time to travel since the fog cleared. As time goes on, that bubble changes character. Some distant lanterns slip beyond communication. New stories drift into view from nearer places as their messages finally reach us. The cast on our stage evolves, but the play remains coherent. It's a long performance with many acts, some already closed, some still to open. All of this sounds grand, and it is, but it also touches your everyday life in ways that feel small and kind. The same light that has crossed gulfs to bring us the sky's history is the light that slips through your window in the morning and warms the floor. The same rules that shape the fates of galaxies make a prism on your desk spill a soft fan of color. The same measured pace that defines what can connect across the cosmos lets your devices share time and position with reliable grace. The enormous and the intimate are written in the same hand. So sit with this picture. The world as a stage that is widening with patience, carrying everything outward on a slow tide. Here, bound things hold each other, and there, open water stretches. No one anywhere is darting past a beam of light. Instead, the distance between far shores grows as the sea itself relaxes. Messages lengthen as they travel, turning bright chimes into low songs. Horizons draw a soft circle around what can be seen and touched, not as a limit to make you small, but as a frame to make the view meaningful. And in the quiet of night, when you step outside and tip your head back, you are both the audience and an actor. The marks under your feet are sliding apart with everything else, too slowly to ever startle you. A star's last breath from long ago may be arriving right now, washed in the color of its long journey. Another message is still on the road, already on its way, its tone lowering as the room widens. Nothing is rushing, and nothing is late. The stage expands, the story flows, and light keeps the beat. You can breathe with it, long, easy breaths, and feel the comfort of belonging to a play that makes room for everything, steadily, gently, forever opening. Think of that steady pace, not as a trivia fact from a textbook, but as a gentle drum that everything marches to, the world's ruler and metronome at once. You meet it before you've had your first sip of morning tea, sunlight crossing your window, the glow settling on the floorboards, the quiet invitation to begin the day. That same pace measures the distance from your doorstep to a satellite, from a lighthouse to a ship, from one side of a fiber optic strand to the other. It looks like brightness, but it behaves like timekeeping. It looks like color, but it behaves like a yardstick. Long ago, we tried to pin down how long is a meter by carving marks into platinum bars and keeping them safe behind glass. But metals expand and shrink, and even the best vault has drafts. So we chose something calmer to trust. We let distance be defined by time, and let time be counted by an atom's perfect, humming tick. Then we said, in effect, however far light travels in a sliver of that tick, that's our measure of length. We tied our rulers to a traveler that never tires, and our clocks to a rhythm that never stumbles. From that moment on, every blueprint, every bridge, every lens and bolt and runway stripe quietly aligned itself with the stride of light and the heart of an atom. The world you carry in your pocket depends on that choice. The tiny map that guides you through a new city listens to a choir of satellites whose clocks run differently than yours, simply because their paths through gravity and motion are not the same as your path on the ground. If we ignored those differences, the dots on your map would slide off the streets within minutes. Instead, the system leans in, accounts for the flexing of time, and keeps everything honest. A garden path becomes a garden path again. A left turn becomes the correct left turn, not a guess. You arrive where you meant to go because a handheld conversation with the sky respects the pace of light and the texture of time. Beneath the oceans, continents are laced together with hair-thin glass that carries daybreaks and lullabies, markets and messages, grief and joy. Inside those cables, light is tapped into little pulses, soft footsteps that count out your call to a friend or the letter you've just written. Each step takes just as long as distance demands. No server can rush a photon across the sea. The delay you feel when you speak with someone far away is the world's size made audible. It isn't a flaw. It's the shape of the planet expressed in the grammar of light. Your camera, too, is a small cathedral built to this constant. The focus that snaps quietly into place, the way a lens bends a scene just enough and not too much. The sensor that notices each arrival and turns it into a speck of image. None of that would behave without a faithful pace to plan around. In your eye, the same arrivals begin a whisper of electricity that becomes sight. Doctors borrow this music to look gently inside the body. They measure tiny echoes and delays, turning faint reflections of light into pictures of layers you cannot otherwise see. The method is simple to feel. Send a little brightness in, listen for how long it takes to return, draw a map from the timing. It's the same trick as shouting to a canyon and reading distance from the echo, only softened and refined until it becomes care. Cities run on this rhythm. Power grids compare the phase of their humming lines using clocks that agree across mountains and rivers. And that agreement depends on signals that never outrun what light allows. Stock exchanges stamp their transactions with times that must line up from building to building, or fairness melts. Weather radars, airport beacons, radio towers, all of them speak in pulses and pauses chosen with respect for the same tempo. Even when you never see the instruments, you feel the calm of a world that has agreed on a beat. Look up, and the same constancy writes the sky's diary. when a star's final breath washes across us, we learn not only that it happened, but how the room between us has stretched since the breath began. The color arrives shifted by the journey, and that shift tells us about the path. Two telescopes on different continents can act like one giant eye by comparing the exact moments when a wavefront reaches each mirror. Their cooperation would be nonsense if moment meant something different for each of them. So they keep time with atoms, and they exchange their notes along fibers, and the distant object resolves, delicate and true. Farmers steer by it. Archaeologists scan hillsides with it and coax lost foundations to reappear from the ground like faint drawings. Ships slide through fog with the help of it. Planes weave long silk curves in the night, while their altimeters ping the earth with light's short footfalls and count the return. In factories, machines carve with a precision that relies on distances laid out by beams that do not waver. In theaters, projectors paint frames in order, each frame a grid of light's arrivals, each arrival right on time. The constant pace does something deeper than making tools obedient. It protects meaning. It keeps every cause from tripping over its effect. It assures you that a promise sent today won't arrive yesterday, that a rescue call won't get to the lighthouse before the storm has begun, that your memory of the sequence of your life can be trusted. When a limit is kind, it feels less like a fence and more like a railing on a dark stairwell, something to rest your hand on while you descend, steady as breath. Even in play, the constant shows up. A prism on your desk catches a stray beam and fans it into a miniature rainbow. The fan opens because each color interacts with the glass at its own leisurely pace, while the underlying reference, the stride of light in open space, remains the same. A soap bubble shivers with oil-slick colors for the same reason, thin layers delaying some notes in the light and hurrying others, too subtle to count, but easy to love. Art galleries balance their lamps to flatter paint and canvas by learning how surfaces drink and return different parts of the spectrum. Color, mood, feeling. Each choice leans on a predictable traveler. If you think of knowledge itself as a city, the speed of light is the clock in the tower. It chimes not to hurry you, but to coordinate the avenues. Physicists ask about the very small and the very vast with experiments that must begin and end in the right order, and the constant gives them a shared schedule. Engineers design circuits that flicker faster than the blink of an eye, tracing pathways that only work if signals take the time they must. Programmers write systems that split work across the globe and then knit the results back together, trusting that packets cannot leap ahead of the future. All of that bustle, quiet, relentless, practical, rests on the same soft drum. There are, of course, corners of wonder that lean hard on this drumbeat. Grey instruments wait for faint ripples in the shape of space itself and compare their waiting with light's unwavering pace. Radio dishes separated by deserts listen to a distant quasar's murmur and synchronize by light stride to turn their scattered ears into one. The universe tells us its secrets through timing as often as through brightness. Even the word we use for great distance is a piece of time wearing a traveler's coat. A light year is not just far. It is long, long in months and days and heartbeats, the measure of how faithfully a message keeps walking. And yet, for all its grandness, this constant is intimate. It is the warm rectangle on your rug at noon, the way dust turns to tiny planets as it floats through a sunbeam, the silvered edge of a cloud at evening. It is the reason two friends can watch the same meteor shower from different towns and know they are sharing an event, even if the streaks arrive at slightly different moments. It is the quiet delay between lightning and thunder, the little counting game that tells you where the storm is. It is the pause when you say, "I love you," over a very long distance, and you can feel the miles in the breath before the answer. If you let it, this constancy will tuck you in. You don't have to hold numbers in your head or symbols on your tongue. Just picture a patient courier moving through every story, keeping pace for everyone, refusing to be bribed into haste or lullabied into slowness. Our rulers are cut to its gait. Our clocks whisper in time with its steps. Our machines and our memories depend on its refusal to play favorites. In a world that can feel loud and quick, there is comfort in knowing that something this central is quiet and faithful. So breathe with it. Imagine the undersea cables humming softly, the satellites turning like careful lanterns, the little glass in your phone guiding tiny pulses along neat paths, the telescopes waiting in the dark for old light to arrive. Imagine surgeons aiming a thread of brightness that will do exactly what it is told. Not sooner, not later. Imagine a pilot's altimeter counting the short journey down and back again, turning timing into altitude. Imagine morning sliding across the floor, that brilliant slow spill that has taken the same time to cross the space between sun and earth as it did yesterday and will tomorrow. In the end, the steady pace of light is not a wall at all. It is a promise kept. It shapes a universe where stories have order, tools have trust, and distances can be named. It is the beat beneath every quiet success of the modern day and the lullaby beneath the ancient night sky. Let it carry you now, a calm, unwavering rhythm that says everything is where it should be, moving exactly as it should, right on time. Thank you for drifting through this quiet journey with me. If your eyes feel heavy and your thoughts have softened, that's exactly right. Light keeps the rhythm, and you're allowed to rest to it. Somewhere out there, a beam is still gliding from star to star, and here you are, safe and still, breathing in time with a calm universe. If tonight's story helped you unwind, tap subscribe and leave a gentle like. It helps more sleepy minds find their way here. I'd love to hear what moment soothed you most, or what mystery you want us to wander through next. Share a note in the comments when you wake, and if you haven't already, you can ring the little bell so the next bedtime voyage arrives right on schedule. For now, let the room dim, let your shoulders drop, and let the steady beat of light carry you toward a deeper, quieter night. From the sleepy Brainist to you, good evening, good rest, and good dreams.